And you don't seem to understand. A shame you seemed an honest man. And all the fears you hold so
Hello everyone, and welcome to Serial Episodes Lain of LostinTranslationmon, and we are covering Layer 09. I'm May.
And I'm Jay.
So, we covered Layer 09, as I just mentioned, and it was called Protocol. But before we step into the synopsis of Layer 09, we'll say what happened in Layer 08. So basically, Lain of the Wide is sort of replacing Lain, and there's more than one Lain, and it's weird, and it was actually pretty creepy.
And it was never mentioned again.
I mean, it was kind of mentioned in this episode.
No, but like the actual effect of her leaving her own body and replacing her with her friends, and like her being left in this nothing zone. Oh, she's back now, it's fine.
I feel like a lot of episodes seem to do that. Like, they seem to invite this interesting concept at the end of an episode, and then the next episode they're talking about something completely different, like an alien in Lane's
I feel like
room.
I've talked about Lost a bunch of times and how they write their episodes and how it feels a bit like that.
Yeah. We've said that about Digimon too, to be fair.
It's true, Digimon's quite bad.
Wow, I just make you watch things you're not interested in, huh?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, my life is basically suffering, and it's mostly your fault.
So yeah, the Lane's Layer 8 had sort of like some interesting ideas, and as I said, a lot of previous episodes have also had interesting ideas, but they never really... It seems that they're putting together all these pieces, but the pieces haven't really been combined yet. They're all just sort of in a pile.
Yeah, although today I saw something that could be a piece that you put together,
Yeah.
and it would even potentially make the entire episode and series make sense. But it's so interesting and so broad and so not mentioned at all that I almost feel like it's not true. Like I've overthought it. There's every possibility.
Maybe, but I guess we'll get to that.
Present day. Present time.
So the episode starts up with some like conspiracy Roswell stuff about the alien crash that occurred in Roswell in 1947.
And what's important about that is that it is never brought up ever again. We see an alien, whatever, but the idea of the actual Roswell crash and aliens is not relevant.
Yes.
What is important is the theme of conspiracies,
Yes.
but nothing else.
Yes, and it's very the X-Files lone gunman sort of thing. I have no follow-up to that.
I've never seen it, so you better have a follow-up to it.
Oh no, it just reminded me of a lot of... And the same sort of like 90s, like, a weird whirlwind of information, like names and photos popping up. You know how they were doing that style in a lot of these explanation parts of this episode?
Yes.
And they have like the names that are lighting up on the screen, and they're against like the sort of like computery digital background with some photos flashing up. A lot of the X-Files does do that whenever they're explaining concepts.
I love the trick
Well, mainly early episodes of the X-Files.
The trick with making conspiracy theories sound really rational and interesting is by sort of explaining your theory and twisting it around real things that sound cool. For example, oh well, there's this doctor, right? And he's experimenting with the frequency of the planet. But you know what he did? He was involved with aliens, and he led the Manhattan Project to experiment with nuclear weapons. That last part makes him sound legit and makes the rest of the theory sound interesting because it's based in something. But that fact that he was studying nuclear weaponry, maybe, means nothing. Is actually unrelated entirely.
Right.
And I see that a lot. Like that theory that Finland isn't real.
There's also a theory that Australia isn't real, though.
Yeah, but one is way funnier than the other. No, you know what? They're both equally
No, the
funny for
Australian one
different
is
ways.
funny because they say, oh, every plane to Australia just really takes you to Hawaii.
But May, the one with Finland is that the Russians and the Swedes or whatever it is have a secret agreement for... No, it was Russia and Japan. You know how like everyone gets on Japan's ass about whaling and stuff
Yeah.
when they're fishing? So they have an agreement for this area of water that they can fish in freely without any international intervention. And that's where Finland actually is. Instead, it's just all water and Finland's not real. And you ask yourself, but there are all these Finnish people who know that they live in Finland and there's a big city there. It's got millions of people. Nah, bro, that's East Sweden. How would you know the difference when you're in a plane? Like, it's all that
Yeah, it's
stuff.
the same thing as Australia. Like, we
And
should
it's
mention, in case you are listening to this and aren't sure, we are from Australia.
Yeah.
We are currently in Australia.
Well, you think, but maybe it's Hawaii,
Yeah,
right?
might be Hawaii.
Because then, like, you know, Russia and Japan, they have a surprisingly long history of diplomatic peace. I'm like, have diplomatic getting along? Like the Russo-Japanese War? No? When Japan kicked the hell out of Russia? Does no one remember that?
Nah.
It's fine.
Nah, it's fake
Conspiracy
news.
theories are hilarious. So the point is, there's lots of these going on, and only one point of this entire bit might be relevant, which I may as well get into now because it's never going to be discussed again in the episode, so we'll just carve all of these pieces out.
I'm pretty sure every time this part happened, I was basically like, oh, it's the guy talking. And not that I didn't find it interesting, I just felt like it it didn't have anything to do with what was actually happening. Like, it didn't have, like, a direct, like, and then the next scene sort of had Lain experiencing this thing. The only one that did sort of had anything to do with it was the time she saw an alien. Yeah. Which, by the way...
Which was irrelevant.
Never meant... in true Lain fashion, it was not mentioned again. And maybe it'll be super relevant at the end of the season. But we're 9 episodes in now out of, 13?
Yeah. So the big one for me is they're talking about this scientist guy, and they're drawing the line from Roswell onward and talking about how he teamed up with the aliens and did all this stuff. And then they cut back and forth, and they talk about how the Earth has a frequency that is at 8 hertz all the time, and they don't know what the effect on people will be. And I'm like, that's an interesting point. And he talks about some experiments this guy is doing with this Earth frequency and a discussion of turning all of... There's the theory, right, that if Earth is essentially a giant brain and you connected all the people would act like neurons, and you could have a neural network that's created out of the entire planet. But the only way to do that is to wirelessly connect everyone. And there's implications that means by the internet, right? And then he says, he basically, without anyone letting him do it, without permission, independently, he connects the Earth's frequency with the 7th generation of the wired.
Right.
So the implication is that the Earth's frequency is a Wi-Fi for the entire planet that connects all people in it. Presumably that's what they get in trying to imply. And if that's the case, May, then that would explain the reason, potentially, why an online version of Lain could be also the real version of her, because the wired, which is being projected through everyone's minds all at once, is now interjecting on the real world.
See, that sounds really good.
If the show is it potentially implied that. It
must be hinting at that, because otherwise...
Because that's cool, honestly.
That is very cool.
And that would explain, A, why Lain is sort of having these weird reactions. And it's possible that she actually has that psyche chip in her from, the second episode.
Which is good, because they're actually bringing things back up that we said, hey, what's the reason for this? And I was just about to say, yeah, what if these chips are actually what connect people? Like, you add them to the network by giving them this chip in their brain.
And the other thing is that there was an implication when she pulls aside this kid, who she says is from the Knights, but he's not, he's just kind of associated with them.
Yeah, he says he's not a formal Knights member.
Yeah, but the implication from what he says is that they pump something into, the music and the lights and stuff in Siberia to connect people. And so that explains why Lain has been seen at this place, and she doesn't remember it as much, because she's much more likely to come out as Lain of the Wired in this space that is intentionally being connected more to the Wired than everywhere else.
Yes.
This is all implied, and I would really like this to be the case, because that would be really interesting. And it would reward you for watching closely. Because I've been feeling this entire show that I haven't been... I've been watching closely and not seeing it. And does that mean I'm not watching closely enough? Or does it mean there's nothing there? Well, and at this point, I think maybe there's something there.
Well, people do say that it's an extremely complicated anime and you need to really think about it and you really need to pay attention.
And there's something to be said for it being rewarding that I came up with that as an idea. And maybe that's the case. And I uncovered what the show's about. But also, if you didn't pick that up, then the show's intensely boring. Because the rest of this episode was still boring, even when I have to think about that.
See, I didn't find it, boring. But I guess we'll get to that. We'll just continue.
You found the small child making out with Lain to be like,
weird.
the height of entertainment?
That was a bit creepy.
It's great, huh? It's great. One-way trip to jail.
Lane's in a room, she's asking who's there, and then an alien shows up. And then she goes to Siberia, and the bartender says that she left this here, and it's this chip. And then she goes over to the creepy children, who are far too mature for what seems to be 8-year-olds. And she asks the boy, hey, I thought we were going to go on a date.
Yeah.
And he's like, I wanted to date the other you. I didn't want to date this you. And she's like...
And his girlfriend is like, hey. No, the girl who hangs out with him is like, hey! She's really jealous.
Yeah, and Lane's like, well, I'm her and she's me. I'm me. And then Tara's like, good point. And then he goes to her house and looks at her computer, which is where you should take all the boys.
Well, if your computer's this impressive...
To be fair, I have a cool computer. I take everyone to see my computer.
Lead with your front foot.
Yeah. I can either show them my computer or my Digimon collection.
To be fair, your computer's a white box. It's not actually that cool.
It's very fast, though. When you look at the parts, it's very fast.
Oh, yeah, well, it's got a big glass door that you can't see because the desk's in the way.
Yeah, I need to put more RGB lights in it.
Yeah.
It's not pretty enough.
Yeah.
But I need to make it... I need to take out the cooling system and make it hydro cooling, and then I want to make it leak all over my floor like Lain. Because, like, I'm not sure if you could hear, but when they were moving throughout Lane's room, there was just the splotches because her room is clearly flooded. And it's just
to be fair, it did explode once.
It did explode, and no one mentioned it ever
When
again.
she played that rave music and her parents decided to have sex while her, like, traumatized, possibly possessed sister is, like, listening.
When talking on a phone?
On
or
her
some
hand phone.
intercom?
Yeah, all of that was nonsense. I can't really, Also, I thought they were meant to be like robots.
Yeah, they did seem a bit robotic, and they seemed to expect this. Like, they said, "Oh, this is to be expected."
It's happening now. Well, we may as well spend the time. It is also implied that Lain is like adopted, and she was like dumped off with these robots.
Yeah. So Lain has this memory when she was pushed there by some government-looking guys. And
We were assuming it's a memory.
Well, I think she acted like it was a memory, and she asked, "Oh, who are you?" But you're me, and it was really weird.
It could have been anything.
It was Lain of the weird.
Lain of the weird.
So Lain asks what this chip is, and little boy, I'm pretty sure his name is Taro, says, "Hey, I don't know." And then she makes him lick the Switch cartridge.
No, she puts it in his mouth and is like threatening to make him swallow it because presumably somehow that connects it to you, like the psyche chip.
I just think it's a horrible thing to make you swallow a chip. It looks very large.
No, yeah, I mean,
We
it wasn't
choked on
that
it.
big. It was pretty small.
I mean, it's big as his mouth, and he's an 8-year-old, so... I mean, I'm
Also,
assuming he's 8.
We should mention it is implied that, or it is stated more or less, that it's a trap by the Knights to get her, like this chip. She didn't actually leave it there. They were
Yeah.
giving it to her. And that it would implant memories into her.
Yeah, it would overwrite her existing memories.
And there's every possibility that's cool.
Yeah, I think it's cool. And then we find out that it may have been planted by the Knights, but Taro's not a Knights member. He says he's not a formal Knights member. They don't tell him anything, and this is all he knows.
And there's a whole philosophical element to it. Is like, the Knights want the truth, and the truth, well, it's the only real thing that's true, and that makes it just. And I go, well, that's not really true unto itself, is it? Because if you reel all truth backwards, you end up with like that nihilistic realism of like nothing matters, and that means anything can be justified. At least
Hey,
you can look at
Jay,
it that way philosophically.
The true is out there.
I want to retrieve.
It's a big golden retriever running across Lane's world.
And I recall the end of the episode is like Lain understanding that truth as God, and God's like, yes, I am here.
Yeah.
Watashi wa wakai. What's that thing that All Might says?
Watashi ga kita. Kita
Watashi
means
ga
come.
kita.
And no, there's this really weird moment where Taro kisses Lain, and then I think he spits his gum into her mouth,
Ooh,
and he says, "This is
the power move.
This was a date, and I'm a guy, so I had to do this." I'm like, "You're creepy. Just you creepily mature young children are really creepy."
Present day. Present time.
So, what were your opinions on this episode?
Like, honestly, the entire thing was naff and boring, except for that one bit where I had to pull out the entire story of the series, maybe, out of a weird conspiracy flashback.
See, I feel like that's what we've been saying after a lot of these previous episodes. We're saying, oh yeah, it was boring until like this one thing that if we think about is really cool.
And it might be cool. Like, the show, I don't think we'll ever talk about this ever again. So, like, maybe it's totally irrelevant. Maybe it's super relevant. Maybe, I don't know, it's 9 episodes in. It really shouldn't be this confusing. And I know that, like, a lot of art house stuff is pretty much designed to not tell you stuff. But when I watch a show, I would really like it to tell me stuff, is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
When I watch a show that people say is really good, I'm hoping that I will enjoy the experience of watching it. Not leave it afterwards and be like, ooh, that was an experience, I guess.
I did like the atmosphere in this episode. Like, as I said, the weird sort of like X-Files-y...
Well, yeah.
It hasn't aged well.
That's your nostalgia, not mine.
I'm not nostalgic for the X-Files.
Yes, you
I only
are.
watched it a couple of years ago for the first time.
How many years ago is that?
I was in year 11, so...
That's nostalgia.
That's not nostalgia.
It's
That was-
nostalgia.
What, how many
It's like
years
10 years ago.
No, it wasn't. I was in year 8 10 years ago.
So it was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes?
No.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Yes.
I was in year 11 or 12. So
How
it
many
was-
years were you in university?
I graduated from
How many
high
years?
School. I was in university for 3 years. I graduated high school in 2011, so it was 7 or 6 years ago, depending
No,
on...
it was 7. Okay.
It was year 11 or 12.
You
So
recall.
I am. But I know, if I get the X-Files vibe from this, and I can appreciate that atmosphere, and it had some sort of like jamming music, but it also reminded me a lot of those science videos they show to your year 10 science class about like the mitochondria being the powerhouse of the cell. It just reminded me a lot of those.
Like, yeah, I can see that.
It had,
Very...
like, you know when they wheeled in the ancient TV, despite it being like the the 2010s.
Well,
sort of
they're
like
not going to buy flat
2009.
screens at your school yet.
And they wheel in this old television, and they pop in this. They blow off this VHS.
I remember when we first got smart boards, we all freaked the fuck out.
See, we had one smart board, and it was in a room that no one used, and no one ever used the smart board.
Smart boards was really slow, and they were not very good.
My parents' school had them. But anyway, I feel like this, maybe we're not enjoying Lain as much as we should, because a lot of people watched it maybe when it was newish and it was very state of the art. I just feel like this is an anime that has not necessarily aged as well as it could have.
Because I think a show that has a message is often very good when it's like prophetic in a real way. And I think that while Lain has a lot of stuff that is correct about the internet, it's also really obviously wrong in a lot of ways. Like, society has not crumbled this much, and computers didn't get so huge and take over your life, and people didn't, it's not been the same. Because it's not about technology, it's about social media, and that's kind of that's not really what the show's about. This is about technology sublimating humanity, whereas it's really meant to be the other way around.
Right.
A show that, we wouldn't cover it because it's not about translations, but that would do this theme really well is Paranoia Agent. Paranoia Agent's a lot more about the way social media, affects people.
Well, if we ever get to the Patreon milestone where you can suggest...
No, it's Gurren Lagann, we're
I
not...
think. Yeah, well, after we do Gurren Lagann, we can have an episode on that. Remember, it's what you want, Jay. Yeah. I still want to just start up a wrestling side podcast. Maybe we can when we move out.
Sure.
We could just have lots of podcasts, and we can I don't know. I really want a wrestling podcast. It's called WWTF.
That is lame.
That was great.
What is it? What do they stand for?
Wrestling, the F. I can't swear because it's...
What does WWE stand for?
Wrestling Entertainment.
Do you really think...
No, it's World Wrestling Entertainment.
Okay, well, that's something.
It's Wrestling Entertainment.
Wrestling the fuck?
Wrestling Championship Wrestling.
Extreme Champion. Damn it, no, ECW makes perfect sense way.
There's only one. Did you know that the www on your website stands for
Wrestling
Wrestling?
Wrestling Championship Wrestling.
No, but real talk. Lots of podcasts are coming. But no, there are...
Serial Expressling Lane.
Yeah. I can actually understand, and I say this every episode, why people say that Lain is so profound and so intelligent, because...
They want to feel smart. Sorry, continue.
No,
What, huh? What?
It does... I can start to see where it's becoming... I don't know, I'm trying to find the right word for it.
What if the last episode was so amazing and mind-blowing, everything makes sense, everything was relevant, it couldn't have come together without every detail you remember
there's
from
also
watching
that.
closely.
But there's also the
what if?
There's also the idea that what if Lain just isn't for us? What if it just continues to be weird, and even the final episode is just Lain standing around, and it's very Neon Genesis Evangelion when she's on a background, she's just thinking to herself, what if it's just that?
How I know it's... Well, how I believe it's not just that is when people say, I like this show, I don't get it though. I watched it 4 times and I don't get it, but I like it. I'm like... Are you sure? Do you really like it? Or do you just like that there's a girl in the bear costume and it has cool things going on?
It has a lot of cool themes.
God, I'm just antagonizing everyone who likes this show, huh? That's a good time.
I don't think you are. Your personal opinions shouldn't, affect someone else's enjoyment or something.
Let's go for it.
I love Digimon, but you don't like Digimon. That's fine.
Digimon's a bad show. It's a bad show for bad people.
You like Atmon.
It's a good show for good people.
Atmon's the best. If you're listening to this, even if you don't like Digimon, watch Atmon. It's the latest season of Digimon, and it's the best. But no, do you have any other opinions?
No, I reserve my opinion until episode 13.
I guess we're not allowed to have opinions anymore until then.
No, you're allowed as many as you want.
Present day. Present time.
So, next time we're watching Layer 10, I believe.
You mean Layer 1-0?
Layer... Will it be 1-0?
No, it'll be 10.
And
should be 1-0.
So, Layer 1-0 is called Love. So I guess more creepy 8-year-olds, maybe?
Oh, boy.
I'm hoping that we get lots of information.
I doubt it. Don't get your hopes up for information.
Wow, Layer 11 is called Inphonography.
Inphonography?
Inphonography, yes.
Cute.
I've never heard that word before.
I want episode 13 to be called All the Answers.
No, it's called Ego. And 12 is called Landscape.
Oh, none of that means anything.
None of any of these titles mean anything.
Girls meant something. It was about girls.
Yeah, that was great. Anyway, so any predictions?
No, how could I?
I would like more information about this Eri guy who died at some point.
Yeah, he got assassinated. And that's how you know that's important to the story, is it stopped being photos and scans instead of being actual animation.
Yeah, when they started talking about Eri, they gave They didn't just give photos of people, they gave, like, animation of
Also, there's
things.
something about The Wired, which means that at this point it's now fiction. And because it's fiction, this is the part that actually matters.
See, I'm wondering if... Now, back to the first episode, we learned that if you die in real life, you
Did you die in real life?
No, if you die in real life, you are alive in the Wired.
Well, you can be, maybe.
Yes, so what if Aerie is alive in the Wired?
Maybe. Why not?
If he had something to do with the Wired, he could have, like, maybe pre-programmed himself, or maybe he's like, since we're watching this and we sort of sometimes address the similarities with Digimon Tamers, what if he's like that, I forgot his name, the guy who looked like Jesus in Digimon Tamers?
Did we talk about the monster that showed up at the end of the episode?
There was, what?
The big tall dude with the long hair and the red face
yeah,
paint?
we forgot about that guy. That's right, in my notes I just wrote, what the?
That's the exact guy that, like, when I look out the windows and it's dark at night, I just think there's going to be a face staring
Exact
through the
guy.
window. I'm like, ah, God!
See, I mean, this episode had a few spoops.
It had the alien cutting to it and, like, the atmosphere around it, but yeah, otherwise, it's fine.
Yeah, so that was it. Any other predictions? Alright, the link dump's linked in the description, and you can contact us and stay updated. You can email us at LostinTranslationmon@gmail.com, or you can comment on this episode or message us on SoundCloud. You can follow us on @TranslationMon on Twitter, and you can find us on LostinTranslationmon on Tumblr, Facebook, and YouTube. We have a discussion thread on With the Will, and a red thread in the Lain subreddit. And we would appreciate it if you would review us on iTunes, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, whatever podcast listening service you use. Ratings really assist people finding out about the podcast. We also have a website where you can vote in our weekly polls that relate to our main episodes, and you can check our release schedule, and please check out our blog posts. You can also donate to our Patreon, which is linked in the description, from as little as $1 a month. And that gets you access to a listener Slack chat group, but there are higher levels with more rewards such as notes, early episodes, and more. And thank you to our Patreon supporters Sam Krieger, who hosts a podcast with Stevie called The Moncast. Stevie is also Stevie Patamon on Tumblr and takes commissions. Wu Qinglong, who is on twitch.tv/Wu Qinglong. Metal Mamimon. Joe, Anime Guy, who is Anime Guy Kurosaki, then the #1 on YouTube. Chuckmon, Hirolato, who is Hirolato on Twitter. Jason Morosky, Ryuchu, who is Ryuchu on Archive of Our Own. Stephen Reeves, who is at Wildwing64 on Twitter. Kaidawashi, Mac, Noam, Riku, Chisai, who you can follow at Chisai236 on Tumblr. Kyle, Delady Bugman, whose anime blog you can find at bugubaragu.wordpress.com. Tom, Glitchgoat, Azrael McCool, Gene Hackmon, Matthew, Anthony, who is at Antoclassic on Twitter, Lizmet, who is Elecmon on Tumblr, Sithobi, Alivorg, who is Alivorg on Tumblr, Sporky McForkenspoon, who hosts a Digimon podcast called Going Digital, Megan, Kyliak, Neoboo, Jams, The Time Optimist, Silver Hair Freak 25, Harvey, and Alex. You can also make a one-off donation on our PayPal, which we found linked in the description. It is paypal.me/edgemon. Make sure to let us know for the podcast. We'll see you guys next time. Bye!
Bye!